Say something. I see dead people.
Hello everyone, welcome to day 4 of Terrorthon Spook Shows. All about the midnight spook shows of times gone by. What the hell is a spook show, I hear you ask? Well, from the 1920s up until the late 70s, these were an event that were held at midnight, hence the name, which involved magic tricks, seances, movie monsters, followed up by a movie with lots of audience participation. But let's rewind a little bit, let's go back to the very beginning. In the early 1900s, Americans began to take interest in spiritualism and communicating with their deceased family members, so mystics and mediums were incredibly popular. Legendary magician Harry Houdini and Sherlock Holmes author Arthur Conan Doyle began to investigate these because they were skeptics. And of course, with all these seances, they found nothing but cheap magic tricks, but that didn't stop the American public from taking a heavy interest in communicating with their dead family. Harry Houdini died in 1926, and with the introduction of movies with sound known as talkies and radio shows becoming more and more popular, magicians with stage shows were completely out of work. Until, in 1929, Elwin Charles Peck had a great idea, and he opened what was known as the Midnight Spook Party. Using seances, but making the magic tricks a little bit more apparent. These were meant to entertain only, they weren't so much meant to make the audiences believe they were actually communicating with their dead family. These midnight spook parties mostly played to teens and young adults, and soon became known as either midnight spook shows, midnight ghost shows, or midnight monster shows. Some of the most legendary spook show hosts included Dr. Evil, Dr. Jekyll, Raymond, Francisco, and the king of them all was Dr. Silkini, also known in real life as Jack Baker. Interesting. In the early 1940s, Dr. Silkini opened the Asylum of Horrors, which turned into more of a satire of seances and included jokes, gimmicks, and audience participation, but with some genuine scares mixed in for good measure. Real movie monsters would actually appear on stage, such as Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, you name them. If they were from the golden age of horror, they were there. Some of the acts included on-stage hypnotism and horror-themed magic tricks, like sawing someone in half. These were mostly run by carnival workers at the time. All of these spook shows had what were known as audience blackouts, where all the lights were turned off, and usually what would happen during these is glowing ghosts and glowing skeletons flew over the audience, and live, in inverted commas, snakes were also thrown into the crowd in the darkness. And all of these effects were created with the power of suggestion. If you believed you were having a live snake thrown at you, then, as far as you knew, it was a live snake. By the 40s, monster movies began to be shown right after the spook shows, which would encourage the work of director William Castle. You also had the likes of Bela Lugosi, who played the original Dracula, coming on stage, and it just became an absolute sensation. Spook shows continued to thrive right up until roughly the release of the movie The Exorcist, by which point spook shows were not realistic enough for modern audiences, and by 1977 they had faded away completely. Spook shows are now, unfortunately, a thing of the past, but they have been succeeded in modern times by the likes of Rocky Horror Picture Show, with the live screenings of that. That's the closest modern equivalent. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed that little bit of history into a time gone by, and I will see you tomorrow.